Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. If you go to the Google homepage, you will see this interesting graphic, and basically if you click on it, it is about the Juno probe successfully arriving, allegedly, at planet Jupiter. Now, Juno is part of NASA New Frontiers mission, and they've spent $1.1 billion since 2011 to create this thing, and it is manufactured by Lockheed Martin. Now, Lockheed Martin, you get into the skunk works, and that gets into the whole topic of the secret space program, what they were doing there, and all that. So that's an interesting rabbit hole that I've gone down in the past. But there's something more here. The connection with Jupiter to the occult is pretty well documented. I mean, you can just type in Jupiter and occult, and it'll take you to all kinds of websites that talk about the esoteric philosophies surrounding this planet. Now, according to skyscript.co.uk, in an article called Jupiter in Myth and Occult Philosophy by David McCann, it says here, just at the very beginning, the connection to Baal. In Mesopotamia, the planet Jupiter was known as Neberu, or associated with the god Marduk. He was the patron god of Babylon and considered equivalent to the older Sumerian god Enlil. The Assyrians, in turn, equated Enlil to their state god Ashur. All were often just referred to as Lord, and this title is preserved in biblical references to Baal or Bel. Enlil was described as the king of the gods and hence associated with rulership and wisdom. Those with Jupiter rising or culminating often display an imperious nature, self-will, or at the least, confidence in their own judgment. The wisdom of Jupiter is the practical wisdom of everyday affairs, not the philosophy which belongs to Mercury. And this is, of course, according to David McCann. He's an expert in history and philosophy of astrology, and so he's looked at some of these things and the patterns dating back to ancient Sumeria and Babylon, and the connection is definitely there. So I don't dismiss some of the research here in terms of the mythology and the historical occult significances. According to Wikipedia, which I didn't even know existed, it's an interesting little thing here on the planet Jupiter. It says, according to Magic with a CK, Jupiter influence may be brought into any magical workings related to religion or faith, legal matters, politics, influencing those in authority or increasing authority or power, and fatherhood or patriarchal power or authority. Also, any working against Saturn influences, healing related to the liver purification, the blood, and circulatory systems. Very interesting that this says here, any working against Saturn. The fact that according to Wikipedia, which is an encyclopedia for witchcraft, paganism, and the occult, I think it's strange that they talk about this planet being associated with religion or faith, legal matters, politics, not only because everything that we're seeing in the news today, but also because there was a recent story that came out on a website that is created by USC, the University of Southern California, in the Religion Dispatches segment, an article titled, "Should NASA Have Given $1.1 Million to a Theology Institute?" written by Michael Schulson. And it states here, in 2014, NASA gave $1.1 million to the Center of Theological Inquiry, an independent institution, quote, rooted in Christian theology. The grant supports an initiative to study, quote, the societal implications of astrobiology. Now, this article really gets into, the overlap between church and state and how that should operate, and should NASA have given a religious institution or a religious organization $1.1 million to study the theological implications of astrobiology. And this, I think, is very much the same as what the Catholic Church and the Vatican have been doing in disseminating information, suggesting that there is something out there, right? And we've talked about this over and over again on this channel. So what I'm getting at here is that the church itself is being infiltrated slowly but surely by these organizations to start to accept the so-called extraterrestrial presence. If the information that there are extraterrestrials out there or life out there, and it comes from the authorities, right? Authorities in political and religious matters, then it's going to disseminate into the masses and they're going to believe whatever, they're spoon-fed. So I think this is all a confluence here of what's happening. Now, I know we've talked a lot about Saturn as well in relationship to CERN, and I really think what we're seeing here is a deliberate control of the oppositions, right? And this has been a system that's been used over and over and over again. The Democrats versus the Republicans is the perfect example here. Two sides, of the same coin, really, when you get down to it, based on different policies and different philosophies that govern our country. So this sort of, pinning two against each other while there's a third controlling party, that's nothing new. And I think in this case, that third controlling party is Satan. Now, Jupiter is also interesting because I made a video over a year ago on breaking down the film Jupiter Ascending. Now, Jupiter Ascending was not a very good movie, but there were lots of hidden esoteric and occult references to the film, and it was actually produced by the Wachowski brothers / now brother and sister thing going on there. So obviously there were lots of occult things displayed in this movie. And I also think that this has something to do with the predictive programming here, where basically these, extraterrestrials that are out there, they basically seeded life on Earth, and there's a time for harvest, which sounds like the rapture, right? And he feels like he has the right to take, all the humans on Earth as harvests to create this life serum for these extraterrestrial lowercase g gods, right? And if you dig into all the stuff related to the names and everything else, it's in your face. So definitely check that out. I'll leave a link in the description section to that breakdown of the film. Now, lastly, I'd like to point to an article that was written on the Signs of the End, watchfortheday.org. It was published back in June 24th, 2014. And, there's some interesting things here. I'm not saying that I agree 100% with, some of these things, but it is an interesting study and it does make you wonder, what really may be going on here. And according to this article, there is significance to September 23rd, 2017. Now, again, not setting dates, but looking at some of the patterns here, September 23rd was a pretty significant date last year in the announcement of the UN Global Sustainable Development with the Pope and the United States, and there were some big things that happened in that time frame. But when you go to Stellarium, which is a program that I have that I can look at some of the star movements and everything else, around 8:30 p.m. in Jerusalem, September 23rd, 2017, there's this very interesting alignment where Virgo, with Jupiter within it, encloaked by the sun, is there with the moon under her feet and Mercury, Mars, Venus all above her head, along with Leo. Now, this is very familiar or sounds very much like the explanation in Revelation 12, where it talks about a sign appearing in heaven and a woman clothed with the sun with the moon under her feet, 12 stars above her head. And I know there are videos out there that have done this breakdown, but according to this article here, specifically regarding Jupiter, I want to point a couple things out. It says here, quote, "The final piece of the sign is Jupiter. Jupiter was known by the Jews as the planet of the Messiah. Jupiter enters the sign of Virgo on August 27th, 2016, which coincides with the close conjunction of Venus. The next close conjunction with these two brightest planets is 49 years later. Jupiter itself enters Virgo about every 12 years. The August 27th, 2016 conjunction comes exactly 400 days before Yom Kippur 2017. Yom Kippur always ends Teshuvah, which is a 40-day season of repentance. Does Jupiter and Venus mark a tenfold application needed at that time? Jupiter then spends those 400 days in Virgo. As the sign of Revelation 12 forms on September 23rd, 2017, Jupiter is in the womb of Virgo and is about to be born. Remember, the meaning of tribulation refers to the period of labor pains before birth. The world is going to go through a period of delivery to result in the Messianic kingdom. This sign speaks to those coming 7 years, the worst in human history. However, we have been warned, and God will deliver those who have put their trust in Christ by taking them to heaven before the 7-year begins." Now, again, I disagree with that. This is a pre-tribulation view, and it goes into more detail. I'll leave a link in the description section. But it's interesting how Jupiter is closely related to this idea of Messiah, and so perhaps this is all an indication for the arrival of the anti-Messiah, the Antichrist. And according to Gnostic teachings, they see Jupiter as the 6th sphere of hell in our planet Earth. It says here, Jupiter controls the two dimensions, the one above and the other below. The positive forces of Jupiter are controlling the 6th heaven, and the negative forces are controlling the 6th hell. This circle of hell is controlled by 576 laws compared to the 48 laws of the physical dimension. Jupiter occurs in Roman, Greek, Latin mythology as Zeus, Jupiter, or Iopatar. And it goes on, Jupiter is the father of the gods, referring to the first couple, the forces that created the universe, the representation of God in each one of us. This is what Kabbalah teaches. And you see also the connection here with the diminishing of gender lines. This is a huge part, right, of what we're seeing in culture today. And this has to do with the occult Gnostic teachings that are very much the root of the Kabbalistic teachings, which has been the thing that hijacked modern Judaism with the Talmud and everything else. It all connects back. But there is a biblical precedence here, again, with Jupiter. In Acts 14, verses 12 and 13, when Barnabas and Paul visits Lystra and Derbe, it says here, the people there mistaked Barnabas and Paul as gods. Okay, it says here in Acts 14:12, and they began calling Barnabas Zeus. Now that word Zeus can also be translated Jupiter. In fact, the King James Version says Jupiter, and Paul Mercurius or Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And then verse 13, then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. They thought Barnabas and Paul were the gods, okay, which is very interesting. And there's another mention of Jupiter in Acts 19:35, and this was when Paul was in Ephesus. And it says here, and when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshipper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from Jupiter? And of course, translations there of Diana, Artemis is another one, the guardian of the temple, and the image that fell down from the sky, or sacred stone that fell down from the sky. I document this in Age of Deceit 2, Alchemy and the Rise of the Beast Image. But this is what they believed. And if you read through, Paul's saying, no, that's not what's going on here, guys. So there's a precedence here set with Jupiter, which is very fascinating to consider. As we see here, the Bible has explained these things and has shown certain hints. I'm not saying that what we're looking at here with Jupiter is the exact fulfillment of Bible prophecy. However, with how things are moving and how things are changing so quickly, I wouldn't dismiss it outright. So again, I'll leave links to the description section. And again, let me emphasize that I'm not in agreement with every single piece of information that I share with these links. I'm not responsible for each person's beliefs or thoughts on everything. You guys form your own opinions. This is just me providing a resource for you to think about these issues and consider the possibility that what they're doing here with the display of Jupiter and this new probe Juno, which is interesting. It looks kind of like a flux capacitor, or, you can even say a triangular shape object. You can look at the tip of it. It's got sort of a square and compass look to it. So, obviously the Freemasonic connection there. There might be something there. So do your own research, stay sober-minded, pray to the Lord for discernment and for truth to be revealed to you, and put on the full armor of God, because things are about to get crazy. Hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless.